everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Hanratty'S Huddle. I'm Rob Adams with Terry Hanratty, and Terry, we crowned a national champion this week. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm very good, Rob. It's the start of a new show and a new national champion. And I can again say, as I said last time when I picked who was going to win over the weekend, I was 100% wrong. But that's pretty much the story. Thank God I don't golf or I don't bet.
Yeah.
Because if I did, I wouldn't have a house.
Yeah, well.
Because it's, I guess I have too much. Everybody said, well, you think about it too much. You have too much theory involved in it. And I saw how Penix, the thing that really scared me about Washington was that they had too many big come-from-behind games.
Yes.
And you really put your opponent in there. How good is Michigan? They're very good.
Yes, they are.
And to come from behind with them is a little more difficult than the other teams in the West Coast.
Yeah, good game up to a point, and then fourth quarter, Michigan ran away.
Well, that first quarter looked like a runaway.
Yes, 14-3.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was worse than that. I mean, Washington couldn't do anything.
I agree.
And Penix missed so many because I saw he was one of the best deep ball throwers I've seen in a long time.
27 of 51, 255, a touchdown, and 2 picks. He didn't have a great night, but he was under pressure all night. And
his offensive line won the Joe Moore Award.
Yeah.
And that's pretty big.
That's a pretty big deal, yeah.
And, Michigan won it 2 years in a row. They lost it out to Washington this year, which probably should have been the flip of it. But, it's a suspect. You got 5 guys playing, and you just wonder how good are they as a unit, and it's very difficult to tell.
And J.J. McCarthy on the other side just was efficient. 10 of 18, 140 yards. Didn't turn the ball over, didn't make too many mistakes. Just had a good, decent night running the Michigan offense.
And I was surprised a little bit. He had the one big run of 23 yards.
Yep.
And people don't realize how fast this kid is. He's one of the fastest guys on the team.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought they would incorporate him more in the running game because this is the last game of the year.
Yeah, only 4 carries for him.
Yeah, it's all, everything's open. So, just let him run the ball. But they didn't need it. So.
No, Corum ran for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Edwards 104 and 2 scores. That's pretty good right there.
I'd be surprised to see where Corum goes in the draft.
I agree.
Because there's such they put no value in running backs anymore. Back in my day, boom, that was the top thing.
Oh, sure.
Wide receivers were sort of, okay. But now it's reversed. Wide receivers are number one. Running backs are sort of like a second thought.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how Corum goes in the pros.
And on a very local level, where you and I record this show, Cornelius Johnson, the receiver for Michigan, 3 catches, 25 yards. He is a Greenwich, Connecticut kid, attended the Brunswick School where he was Gatorade Player of the Year, and I basically covered him doing play-by-play from when he was in the GYFL right up through his senior year. So I'm happy for him. He comes from a very good family, so he's a good kid.
And Brunswick is a great school.
Oh, great school, great
really
program.
Both Greenwich and Brunswick, really phenomenal programs.
Yeah, they have both had years where they each won a championship, and that's pretty good when you can call yourself a title town like that.
Yes, very much.
Very good. So Michigan, what do you make of it ultimately? Is this going to be tainted forever, or is it just going to be talked about? How do you assess it?
I think it's Michigan's fault.
Yeah.
Because nobody really cares. But they keep bringing up us against the world, us against the world.
That is true.
Just don't say anything.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I'd forgotten that, Harbaugh was suspended the first 3 and last 3 games. Who cares? It was a game. They won the game legitimately.
Yes.
And, who cares? Just let it die, and you're the national champions.
Yeah,
very easy.
You're always going to have critics, especially when you're Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's been dealing with critics, since he was a college player. He's been that kind of magnetic personality. I remember it all the way from college to the NFL as a player before he became a coach. So you're always going to have that. You're always going to have people chirping. Ohio State fans are going to be angry. Michigan fans are angry, or Notre Dame fans, rather, are angry. I get it, but at the end of the day, you're the champion. Let it go.
And then I can remember and go back to many years ago, probably about 12 years ago, when my son was coming out of New Canaan High School. And he was offered by Cal Berkeley and Jim at Stanford. So we had sort of a family trip. We went out to California. We did the L.A. type thing, and we with my daughter and wife and Connor and I.
Yeah.
We drove up the West Coast, up to Cal Berkeley, and we saw all that. It was funny because I went there, and you saw the, Haight-Ashbury, from the 60s, the intersection.
Oh, sure.
There. And I'm going, wow. And you look on the corner, and the same people were still there, I think. They were just older than hell like me.
Yeah.
But we all were, lived through the 60s, so it was really wild in that sense. Then we went, and Cal Berkeley is a gorgeous school. But it's like an Ivy League compared to, Stanford is a country club.
Yes.
Stanford is beautiful.
Yes,
but it's
it is.
very new looking, where Cal Berkeley has the Harvard maybe looking buildings. And that's when Oliver Luck was there. And so I'm sitting there with Jim and
Great player.
Talking with him, and he says, come to the huddle. Let me show you something. So I go out there, and Jim says, he goes in, he calls 3 plays. He says, Terry, watch this. I called 3 different pass plays for Oliver. And
or his son, Andrew.
And Andrew, I keep thinking of Pops. Andrew. And all of a sudden, he can bum.
Yeah.
Completes 3. He said, he can make every throw. I said, Jim, I know that. Watch the kid play. But the real key is, are you going to be here if Connor was to come to school here? And he said, put up his hands and look around me. He said, this is heaven. Why would I want to go anywhere else?
Yeah. How'd that work?
Okay. Next year he's at 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's probably going to be back in the NFL next year, but we'll see.
I think that's the biggest key right now for Michigan. I think they're looking for his replacement, I would guess.
Yes.
And I really think Jim has probably said, no mas. Let's go back to the NFL where I make, these guys make so much money more. It's not even about the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How much money they make, just give me a check, I think he's coming back to the NFL.
I do, too. I definitely do, too. Speaking of coaches, be remiss if we'll stay in college for a moment, and then we'll get to the NFL. Coach Saban decides to call it a day at Alabama. What do you think?
I can remember saying to a couple of people, I said, boy, Nick really looks tired last year.
Yeah.
And he didn't look really enthusiastic enough like he used to. And then he came back this year, I think, to try to rectify what was going on. Then, remember at the beginning of the year, Alabama did not look good.
No, they didn't.
They've lost, and they didn't look good winning. And everybody thought, it's over for Alabama. And I think this may be Saban's best coaching year ever.
He did a great job of rallying that team.
And rallying the quarterback.
Yeah.
Because the quarterback, they were, they had the kid from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And they had another kid on scholarship and this last kid.
And you can't ask for much more than to get to the semifinal and be in a position to win. Now, they didn't win, but they were there.
They were there, and they could have easily won.
Yes, they could have.
It was a big,
and maybe even should have.
Probably a better game than the championship game.
I think that's
Those
fair.
things usually are anyway. But
yeah.
But then you start thinking, he had his greatest coaching year, and I thought for sure then he'd stay on.
Yeah.
Do it a couple more years. I thought if he was going to hang it up maybe last year, but this year I thought he would hang it up. Again, I'm wrong. I'm going to bet on that one. But, you can't take it away from him. He's been an absolutely phenomenal coach. He's produced some great, great athletes. Now, everybody's going to say, well, he's got all the 5 stars and all that. He does. But he recruited them.
Yeah.
He had the same you had the same opportunity that Saban had to recruit these kids, but he got away with it.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah.
So you got to give him all the kudos.
Yeah, a legendary career, no question. All the national championships and just everything he's done. It can't take it away from him by any stretch. And on the same note, we turn to today's news. And, Pete Carroll certainly stepping away. We can mention him. But let's face it, today's about Bill Belichick, who made it official. And I think we all knew it was coming. And it happened as you and I are speaking.
Yeah, to touch a bit on Carroll. And he's going to stay within the organization.
Right.
So I think it's sort of a little easier there. But Belichick, it's been rumored for the last 8 weeks at least.
Sure.
And the way New England has played the last couple of years without Tom Brady, it's been sort of up in the air. So I think, again, he got a great coach, great record. Just walk off into the sunset. Neither of these guys need another job.
No.
And I would be surprised. There's rumors right away that Belichick's going to go here. And I'm saying to myself, why? What more do you have to prove in this league?
In the press conference, well, what little press conferences was because they didn't take questions, but Bob Kraft made it pretty obvious that Belichick's going to go somewhere.
Well, I'm sure that.
Yeah.
Because there's, 8 teams
I keep hearing
now?
the Falcons.
8 teams that need a coach?
Yeah. Yep.
And, there's got 18 egos out, or 8 egos out there, these
It's
owners.
True.
That will pay anything to get the name.
It's true.
And whether Bill still has it, does he have the fire? I'm sure he's going to look at roster and look at his quarterback and say, where do I have the best chance to have a little success?
And let's face it, he does his best with a defense. So who's got the defense that he can nurture and work with to create a monster? And he's big on special teams. And you're right, the quarterback matters. Now, the Falcons are not great in that regard. They would have to draft somebody, in my way of thinking.
Well, this is probably the best year for him to come in.
Yeah.
Because looks like a pretty good year for quarterbacks.
Yep.
And they're going to be abundant.
Yeah. And does he insist on being, the general manager as well? Does he insist on running the show? That's something to think about because his past couple of drafts have not been pretty.
And there's not many coaches that have jumped into the not athletic director, but general manager.
GM, yeah.
And have been successful at it.
Right.
And so, there's 2 huge jobs that need 100% of your time. So it's very hard to split.
Yeah, you need someone you can work with. I think that's what it comes down to.
Even if it's an underling to you.
Yeah.
You do all the work, but I'm going to make that last decision. So
it's got to be that kind of relationship, though.
Well, with the Steelers, when they were drafted Franco Harris.
Right.
Chuck Noll wanted Robert Newhouse.
Right.
Remember him who went to Houston?
Yeah.
The running back? And our scouting system said, no, we want Franco Harris, big, fast, strong,
And Lydell Mitchell was the third option, right? But he didn't.
Yeah, Lydell was never considered
really
a Franco
considered
type,
right?
Because Franco had so much size to him.
But Franco was kind of a surprise when he was drafted in some ways.
Yeah, because Joe Paterno used Lydell as the lead back.
Correct.
And Franco was sort of the afterthought of the running game at Penn State.
Yeah.
But obviously very talented.
Extremely talented.
But the Newhouse Franco Harris thing was very prevalent. That was Chuck wanted Newhouse.
That's so interesting
because he was a short, really stocky, tough running back, between the tackle kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. And a good player, but he just wasn't Franco.
And Franco could do the between the tackle and dip to the outside. So, that's when Chuck lost the vote because he was early in his coaching career. Didn't have the Super Bowls under his belt yet.
Yeah.
And it was good because then they were right. Our scouting staff was right to take Franco.
And those early 70s drafts, up through that 74 draft where all those key pieces come together, Swan and all those guys right around 74, that was remarkable drafting by the Steelers, who have always been pretty good in the draft.
And Chuck got really, he was really involved, after, and the thing when they drafted Swan and Stallworth in the same year. And he was very proud of that one.
Oh,
because
for obvious reasons.
Here, they had different scouting systems back then. Like we were involved. The Steelers were involved with the Blesto, which was about 6 or 7 teams put together, and they shared everything. Well, they had John Stallworth at a 4.9 in his 40, and the Steelers Chuck wanted Stallworth first, and they had him at 4.5. Big difference. Well, they wanted Swan also. They gambled and took the All-American Swan from Southern California and took him number 1, and Stallworth dropped to the 4th round.
That's right.
And now they got
4 Hall of Famers in that class, by the way.
But they got both receivers in the same draft and both in the Hall of Fame.
Swan in the first round. Remember the second rounder?
Oh, I should. Lambert.
Yes, you do. Number 58. That is correct. Stallworth in the 4th. And then they took a D-back, Jimmy Allen. And in the 5th round, took number 52, Mike Webster.
Yep. That's a pretty good draft.
That's a legendary draft. That's amazing.
Well, here's one for you. You want to do a little trivia? Who was Lambert's teammate at Kent State?
Wasn't that Burt Reynolds or something like that? It was
No.
Someone random. I can't.
No, not random at all. Someone we've already talked about.
Who?
Nick Saban.
That's right. That's right.
They were teammates
That's
at Kent
right.
State, and I can't imagine because that was the knock on Lambert.
That's right.
Because Jack was, the barroom.
He was the brawler.
Patriot.
Yeah.
And he would go in there and he'd get a little in discussions with people and sometimes escalated from there. And funny story, because they come out the same year, Randy Gradishar
Yeah.
from Ohio State.
Very good player.
This clean-cut kid from Ohio State, big middle linebacker, and here's Lambert, this barroom fighter from Kent State. And you can see the jealousy already from Kent State to Ohio State, right? So we got Lambert, and we're playing Denver, maybe halfway through the season. And I said, we're going out to the field. I go up behind Lambert. I said, I just wish we had Gradishar instead of you today. And he's just,
Oh, no.
oh, I had him so fired up. He was going crazy. And we're out there doing stretches, and Gradishar come, and I'm watching him. Gradishar come over and say hello to Jack. And he said, hey, Jack, Randy Gradishar, Ohio State. And Lambert looks up to him and says, who gives a blank? and then the game progressed.
Oh.
No, but I can't imagine him and a Saban on the same team.
No.
Seemed like different personalities, but they did well.
So it's a heck of a day for coaches when in the span of 24 hours, it's Nick Saban, it's Bill Belichick, and there are those who are going to say those are the two best ever, which we throw that term around far too easily. But they are both all-time greats. But you've got to take the good and bad when assessing these guys, too. Belichick was not perfect, obviously.
Well, when he went to
Cleveland.
Browns.
It didn't go well.
No, and he was, Bill Parcells brought him back as an assistant.
Right.
And Saban went to Miami Dolphins.
Right.
And did nothing there, and came back and went to LSU.
But Belichick's legacy is it's so great as a defensive coordinator, and in these years with the Giants, and even when he came back to the Jets, to have the Jets on the doorstep of a Super Bowl, that's not easy to do with that franchise. Right. There's certainly a lot of great. It's just figuring out how to assess him properly today without just throwing the bouquets at his feet, And
it's sort of like his life.
Right.
Because you sort of have to find your little niche in life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you falter here, falter there, then all of a sudden you're successful. And people say, well, he failed over here. But he got back up on his feet and did it the right way and keep progressing in life. That's
sure.
No matter what field you're in, you have to do that.
Yeah, and look, flashy. Those who are flashier get the attention. Bill Belichick is flashier because of having Brady, because of Deflategate and all the other nonsense. But where nobody talks about Chuck Noll, and that always amazes me. People do not talk about Chuck Noll.
He won 4 Super Bowls, was in 4 Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Never Coach of the Year.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing. And he didn't want it. I mean, when he first came to Pittsburgh, he had to do a TV show, and it killed him.
Oh, I'm sure.
He hated to go on and talk about the game that just what happened and the game that's coming up. That wasn't Chuck. Chuck was a teacher, and Chuck wanted to break down film, and Chuck wanted to teach his players how to do the right thing. And you got to give him credit for that, because once he became successful, that TV show went out.
Yeah.
Because now he's his own man. He could care less about Coach of the Year.
And even later on with Noll, when there was talk that the game had passed him by, I remember, and I think it was the 89 season, they start off getting blasted by the Browns and the Bengals, back-to-back weeks, outscored like 92-7, something
right.
like that. They become a playoff team, ultimately going into the wild card, and they make it, I think, to Denver, and they lose by a point, if I recall, with the likes of Bubby Brister as your quarterback.
Well, that's when Chuck would that was after me, and Chuck would make the speech to his team. We're going to start Monday. We're going to get back to the basics. And that's one practice you don't want to go through.
Yeah.
Quarterback, you're fine. You can't be hit. But you basically scrimmaged and got them back to getting toughness again.
And you think about the coaches in the Noll era. Landry, Shula. This is after Papa Bear Hallis, but still, he's looming large at that point. Paul Brown is still around because he's with the Bengals at that point. It was a bit. I mean, later on you had bigger personalities. Hank Stram is active at that point. It was a great era for coaches.
Great year, great time for coaching.
So he didn't need
the all-time
Coach of the
Hall
Year.
of Fame coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is the best ever? If you had a vote, who would it be?
For the best
coach,
all-time coach, well, I would lean to Chuck Noll.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that.
He did something that few did. I mean, Pittsburgh. And I know well because I grew up 30 miles north of there. So I got to hear everything. But they were a bad franchise for 40 years. Chuck's first year. And you got to give the credit to the Rooneys.
Yes.
Because they took an assistant coach from Shula's staff, defensive coach, who was in his mid-30s, and they brought him in.
Yep.
And the first year was my rookie year. We were 1-13.
Yeah.
Now, today's standard, half the teams in this league would have fired him.
I know.
Then the second year, we were 5-9. And probably the rest of the league would have fired him. 6 wins after 2 years. Then it all clicked in then.
Yeah.
And with the drafting started to get depth and started to weed out the people he didn't want. And they brought in the people he wanted. Chuck rarely traded. Chuck didn't want anybody else's problems. He wanted to get the kid out of college, bring him in, teach him the Steeler Chuck Noll way. And that's where the success really happened because you were like a college team. You were all together on the same team.
And scandals were minimal during his
none.
The criminal element thing, yes, with the Raiders, but that was
Ernie Holmes had a few little a few little happenings there, but no need to rehash that.
But for the most part, it's a pretty clean slate.
Oh, it was wonderful. We were really a tight bunch.
Yeah,
I mean, we were really a very close teams there.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable. But again, I think very underrated. Chuck Noll. We just don't talk enough about him. Playoffs coming up this weekend in the NFL. Steelers made it in.
Oof.
Going to be a tough trip.
By the hair on a chinny chin chin.
Oh, that's for sure. Going to be a tough trip to Buffalo, especially without T.J. Watt. That's going to be tough.
How about Miami to Kansas City?
Yeah, that's fun.
Coming out of 70-degree weather to get down to 5 below weather.
Yeah, it's going to be very cold.
I mean, a lot of guys on all teams played in the north, so they played in 0-degree weather.
Yep.
But when you move to Miami and you start getting used to the 70s, it sort of fades away. So that's going to be interesting. The Steelers going to Buffalo. I mean, that's going to be, we are really geared for cold, snowy days because we've really come around to running the ball well. And I think Mason Rudolph, I mean, I don't know what award we can give him so far this year, but, for 3 games in a row, he's been wonderful. And I really think he'll continue. Of course, again, it's been the offensive line that's picked up their play. If you notice the last games he's won, he's had pretty damn good protection.
Oh, he has.
And whether they're saying a lot because of the coaching staff change and the offensive coordinator. That's probably part of it. But, Mason hangs on to the ball a lot longer than anybody.
Yes.
When you talk about quarterbacks who get rid of the ball quick, Mason doesn't.
No, he doesn't have the happy feet.
He's more like Roethlisberger.
Yes.
Who held on to the ball till the end, then got rid of it. And he took a shot. That's when you got beat up that way.
Najee's running the ball great. And that's what an offensive line will do for you.
Opening some holes, and the kids are running hard. And, I think they have a legitimate chance. And Buffalo has not been playing well the last few weeks. I think talent-wise, they're the better team.
They've won 5 in a row, I think it is, 5 or 6 in a row at this point. But to your point, it's been, there have been some real gut check victories when you think about it.
Yeah, they weren't that clean-cut, boom, 34-10, get out.
No.
But I think, like I said, talent-wise, I think they're the better team.
I agree.
But I think Pittsburgh's got a really legitimate shot.
I hope so. That Dolphins-Chiefs game, that's the one that's over on the streaming service, Peacock. It's an exclusive game. If you don't have Peacock, you're not watching it in this area.
I'm used to Peacock.
Okay.
Because we had a few games for Notre Dame the last couple of years.
That's true. You would know.
And I had to find the damn place. And I'm all over the place.
I don't have it.
Peacock
or I don't pay for it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I have it, and so I'll be able to watch anything that's on Peacock.
My concern is Sunday at 1 with the Steelers. That's my concern right now is watching that game.
Yeah, at least it's going to be in the daytime.
Yes.
I mean, Miami, Kansas City is a night game.
Yeah, and the Steelers almost wound up going to Kansas City.
Yes.
So I'm perfectly content. Don't have to deal with the Taylor Swift factor and all that stuff.
No, I'm sure she'll be there.
I'm sure she will. In a suite, bundled up.
Yes, with Kelsey's mother.
Exactly right.
She'll be bundled up also.
What else? Because we've pretty much hit our time. What else do you want to hit before we say goodbye?
Well, we can't give them too much now. We've got to save some for next week, too.
I agree. We're flying today, though.
Yeah, that's good.
A lot of good stuff. All right, Terry, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of Hanratty's Huddle. We will talk to you next time. Find us on social media and drop us a line. Let us know what you like, what you want to hear. We look forward to it. For Terry Hanratty, I'm Rob Adams. You've been listening to Hanratty's Huddle. We'll see you next time.